Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Society Chat. This is episode 8, and today we'll be talking about discovering your niche in interior design. So, without any further delay, let's get started. So, joining me today are 3 fabulous, talented interior designers and interior designers in the making. And I'd love for you all to just take a moment to introduce yourself. We'll start with Amanda.
Hiya, my name is Amanda Pesniti. I'm from Canada. I've migrated to the UK originally for travel, but kind of redirected myself. I've had a passion for, I say design. I remember being like 10 and my mom repainting my room and being like, no, we're not doing this, we're doing this. Move the border down here, switch the color to this screen. I like that hue, these beds, paint them there, and then like redesigning the entire thing. And just always being obsessed with like every interior design show ever. So when COVID hit, we flipped over to interiors. So now I'm in the BA honor program with British Interior Design Academy. It's been a slow start for me because I thought that COVID would be a great opportunity, but I was one of those people who was so distracted by nothing that I just now that things are going, I'm going, but it was weird. But anyways, it's going and I'm really excited. And I just moved into a new house that I'm going to be making the most of everything I learn in. So yeah, really, really excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining. Then we'll move on to Nami.
Hello. So my entry into interiors is a bit of an odd one, I suppose. It's always been a passion of mine. It's something that I've always taken an interest in. And similarly to Amanda, I remember my mum questioning some of my choices as a child. And she was like, they're very grown-up choices. Are you sure? You sure that's the bedspread you want? And I'd always be like, yes, definitely. And I just felt it in my heart, just knew it. So I've always done interiors on the side for friends and family, passion projects, and kind of barging myself into friends' houses and being like, let's do this, and kind of taking over. But I actually worked and ended up falling into event management. And the side of events that I loved was the creative side. So it was very much like the interiors. So I did manage to work for some incredible creative companies. We're talking empty warehouses, turning them into the world of Narnia, and really creative. And for me, it was just some amazing events. And, and then moved kind of throughout the events world, ended up doing weddings as well. And again, for me, I was the one that was like fixated on the table settings and all those little details. So it's always been a part of me and who I am. But then in the first lockdown, I actually got made redundant, which was really sad, I thought. But then after half an hour, I was like, why do I feel kind of elated? And I got off the phone with a friend and she gave me a big kick up the butt. And she was like, this is your chance. Like, it's now or never. Like, why are you even bothering thinking about, finding another job in events? You've always wanted to do this, like do it. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it. So luckily had the support of a boyfriend that was very much like, you've got a month, I'll cover everything, like go for it. And really strangely, I'd already done some research and found that a lot of the interior designers that I was following on social media and that I aspired to be like, they, I kind of stalked them on LinkedIn as well. And they were very much started their careers after uni as kitchen designers. It's a really easy way into the industry. Training's provided, and it's a really nice kind of niche to start in, just to build that skill set. So I kind of thought, right, well, I live in Harrogate, North Yorkshire. Every other it's a really beautiful little town, but every other shop is either an interior design, a bridal shop, or a beauty salon. So I went around literally knocking on doors in a pandemic. It was more the telephone, but I managed to secure some freelance work. And I worked with a local company, and actually, sorry, I realise I'm rambling now, but worked with a local company and helped redesign their showroom. I'd showed them my event stuff and they saw my portfolio of how creative I could be. So they kind of took a chance on me and we worked together on that for a couple of months and it was fantastic. And then there was a well-known brand of kitchens, and they've just opened a store in Harrogate. So I applied for the job and got it. So I'm now currently working as a kitchen designer, which I'm absolutely loving. The training has been fantastic. Just getting to grips with the software and all the intricacies of interiors that go behind the scenes, and kind of really understanding how to interact with the trades as well. So that's been fantastic. But my passion is interiors, and hopefully when I eventually get around to completing the British Academy of Design course that I signed up to but have now not had a chance to start, I will be able to move into that full time. So kind of a long-winded way around it, but my God, it feels amazing to be doing something creative every single day instead of doing it on the weekend. Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. What a journey so far.
It's been tiring. Yeah.
Thank you, Nami. And finally, and last but not least, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah Jetley. I don't really have an interiors background. I've been in the city, well, I was in the city for about 20 years. And it was only when we left the city and moved up to Shropshire in the North Midlands that we ended up with a very dilapidated, very tired, very large Georgian vicarage that, I mean, it just needed so much work doing. And that was basically my introduction. I mean, I've always loved interiors, don't get me wrong. And I'm the first one to be watching a tense drama on television, absolutely engrossed. And I'll be the one saying, I love that wall color in the background. But it's, no, I do love it. And the vicarage was my opportunity to really get, you know, sort of an interiors experience, I suppose. And a lot of friends had said, you know, you really should do this for a living. So I thought, well, why not? And it was only when we've subsequently 3 years ago moved south, that I signed up for the academy, and I absolutely love it. I'm halfway through the assignments. I have learned so much. I mean, most of it sadly has been done during lockdown, but no, it's great. And here I am.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. Well, welcome, ladies, to this amazing discussion about discovering your niche and the benefits. As an interior designer, one of the best ways to separate yourself from the rest is to specialize. So I kind of want to just jump right in it and start with the benefits, you know, understanding what the benefits are. So can you all share some of your sort of tips or the reasons why you think having a niche in interior design is so important? I'll open the floor, whoever would like to jump in.
I feel like it's something that makes you more valuable, you know, like opposed to being, you know, a jack of all trades, to be a specialist in one, to be seen as a specialist and, you know, mastering a niche is something that will draw people to you. To be someone who does the generic stuff that everyone else does, you can so quickly get lost in the mix. And what is, you know, what is making you different from everyone else on the market if you have nothing unique to offer? So to kind of find what your taste is and determine that, and then, you know, exploit that. I think people will take you slightly more seriously, and I think you'll kind of fall into a pocket that might get to know you, and then kind of you can expand your business within like the realm of that niche, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think making yourself, it's all about making yourself an expert. You know, there's a lot of us, it's a very crowded market, interior design, and so it should be. It's a passion for a lot of people, and there's different levels of it. So it's very much about distinguishing yourself as an expert, and being able to then, like you say, add that value to your client's experience and to your projects. You know, it's a very consultative approach is interior design, or that's how I like to do it. Some people and some clients that I work with are very much like, I have no idea, just go for it. But I still try and make it as consultative as possible. And it's about finding that niche, is about digging deeper. I suppose, you know, it's great to start with a foundation of knowledge, and then that's when you appreciate all the other little intricacies and how they all mix into each other or work with each other, then that's how you can build that niche. And it again, yeah, it's all about adding value, as you say. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you know, also clients, you know, they've got an idea in their head. And if they want something, for example, which is of stark minimalism, they're not going to want to, you know, be confronted with an interior design whose head is full of, you know, English country house glamour.
Yeah.
So I think it saves, I think having a niche and marketing yourself subsequently, I think that's important, because then it saves a lot of time on both sides, really.
So
it's going to be an awful lot of waste of time for a client, as I said, who's looking for one thing and you're specializing in another. It's going to be difficult, I think.
yeah.
Absolutely. And vice versa, I think, as well.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that awkward conversation where a client wants something and it's completely not in line with your style or aesthetic,
Yeah,
or what
absolutely.
you want to. So
Yeah, I think establishing your niche very much helps you to be authentic. So it's exactly what Sarah's saying. This is who I am, this is what I specialize in, this is these are my designs and this is my style, and it's a really organic process, and this is who I am, and if you want to work with me, fantastic. So yeah, if somebody came to me, for example, and wanted a contemporary Miami minimalist, I'd be like, I'm so sorry, please leave, I can't help you. It's just, I might be talented in certain areas and I could do it, but I wouldn't be able to add that genuine authenticity to it, because it's not in my soul, it's not who I am, it doesn't come to me naturally. So yeah, it's horses for courses. It's very much about matching the client to the interior designer as well. Absolutely. Yeah.
So the key ways for the benefits are focused marketing, being able to basically then have a higher conversion because of that focus, being able to price yourself better because you're in a niche. So you'll have also fewer objections because it's all aligned. And then, as you all mentioned, specializing, becoming a specialist, becoming an expert in an area, which helps with better brand awareness overall. So that's some of the key benefits. And having said that, have you all, or any of you, established your niche? What is it? Throw that out there. Nami, you can go first.
I mean, I've only been doing it 2 minutes. I think I'm still developing that niche. I actually, in the lead up to this, spoke to a few friends, and I was like, what's my niche? What's my niche? Who am I? And it really actually got me thinking. And I suppose one theme that came out of it that, even from a young age, that I've been doing is, I'd say it's two things. One, I'm quite good at implementing a scheme on a lower budget, but getting that high-end look. Yeah. I think, I wasn't brought up with loads of means and things like that. So I've always managed to be able to do that, not because I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses, just because if I'm into a particular style and I'm unable to do it, I'll find a way to recreate it. So having that creativity, especially within the events industry, because otherwise you end up spending hundreds of thousands and the client always wants to spend, £50. You've got to be able to do that. And I think the other thing for me that my niche is that I really enjoy doing, when I'm speaking to a customer or a client, I always ask, how do you want that space to make you feel? And it's kind of it's the intangible element of interior design.
For example, mine is probably, I sort of love all different styles, and I particularly love at the moment, there's so much of this crossover between Scandinavia and Japan with, and sometimes you'll get a bit of Midwestern furniture thrown in as well. But every time I try and, I approach a room, I think, okay, I'll try and look at this differently. And I end up going back to the same country house, sort of slightly faded glamour of, the English style.
I love that.
And I suppose that is my niche, that's just my thing, for all the houses, there's always been a sort of a common theme of, it's traditionally pretty much English. Every now and again, you might find a sort of a bit of, my parents lived in Singapore for a long time and, brought back a load of, the most stunning Asian furniture. And I find myself very drawn. And in fact, I have Asian pieces throughout the house anyway. But yeah, so I suppose it's kind of that traditional English faded glamour with a touch of Asian thrown in.
And that is,
I don't think that makes sense to anybody, but to me it does.
Absolutely. I think it's an appreciation for traditional and well-made pieces, and I think that goes hand in hand with sort of British design as well. So Amanda, how about you?
It's funny because when I took this on, I didn't have like a specific element in mind. I think I often was drawn to the room I was in, and then like I reflected what that room kind of featured into like what I chose to kind of like the angle I took. So if the room, I don't really love white, but if the room was completely white, then I would go with it anyway and just make it as beautiful as it could within the realm. So once I finally like signed up, I was like, I really have to think about like, what am I going to be doing? Like, what is my niche? And I was reading a book called, I don't know if you guys have read it, called Mad About the House.
Yeah.
And she mentions in like the first few chapters, if you don't know what your style is, open up your closet and look at what your wardrobe is reflecting.
Oh God.
Yeah, and if it's like very minimal, if it's just like black and white, then like
What does like a 20 pairs of sweatpants say then at the minute? Like what? Who?
Lockdown living.
But like my closet is full of like bold patterns and bright colors, and I think that's really reflected in like my general, like my mug is just like covered in, you know, like, I just can't, like everything is bold and interesting, and I love, you know, how they're doing the really like modern traditional where they're painting, you know, doors, floors, ceilings, moldings like a dark blue with a drop gold chandelier, and I just think it's so glamorous and rich.
Your aesthetic or niche is definitely bold design.
Yeah,
and you know, you can't go wrong with bold. Is you know, I think it's definitely a statement. Again, you know, also with Sarah, I think British design is unique, but it's also it's something that everyone can feel comfortable with. You know, it just depends on how far you take it. You could go.
I think it's actually a lot harder for British design, like for what Sarah described as her style and her niche. That's where I'm trying to get to. I think mine is still a bit more staged, maybe a bit more set, like event set design, but I'm trying to relax into it a bit more, and it is about having that confidence to, it's almost like a maximalist minimalist look in that sense, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like you know, going right back to the Laura Ashley days and bringing it into you know in the 21st century, but it's been around, it's a classic, and it's reinventing that niche, I suppose, as well. That's quite an interesting theme. Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, I am still figuring my niche out, but I think that I'm very much drawn to sort of good design. So whether the scheme requires, you know, glam, or whether it requires sort of minimalist, sort of Japandi style, I just try to find mix up the design. So I always like to have a bit of a transitional design. So if it's a contemporary space, then I'll try to incorporate some vintage elements or some worn elements, something that's a little bit distressed in it, to kind of make it feel a bit warmer. And if it's a traditional building, then I would rather go for more contemporary pieces, you know, and always try to find something with interesting geometry or shape. So what it is exactly, I can't put my finger on yet, but it's definitely more transitional for sure. But yeah, that's really interesting. And I think that for our viewers, you know, you probably know what your niche is in your gut, but you're still trying to play around with ideas, especially if you're a student and you're having to do various types of projects. This is the time for you to discover that. And I think ask yourself the questions, like, what are you drawn to? That sort of quiz where you kind of look in your wardrobe and look at your style. But there used to be a show called Dress My Nest on the Design Channel, and
I don't know that.
And Tom Felicia, I think that was his name, or is his name, and he would ask you for some pieces from your wardrobe, some you know, special items that are special to you, or for whatever reason. He'd put this collection together and then draw from that what your aesthetic is, and then it would just be spot on, because sometimes we don't know what we're innately drawn to. But yeah, that said, we'll move on to the next bit, which is, okay, now that you kind of know that you need to figure out a niche, or you're looking into it, what are some of the starting points for sort of distinguishing yourself from the rest? What are some key actions that our viewers can take to start working that out?
I feel like this is such an interesting industry because you can like personalize it so much, even though it's like one role that can be personalized so much. And when you can kind of relate your passion to it, kind of as you mentioned, then I think it makes it, that is kind of how you can start distinguishing yourself and making you stand out above the crowd. So like, as I mentioned, I believe I worked in travel previous, and there are so many ways that I could blend that. It's not like writing off my past career. I don't think that that's the answer. When you start something new, it's like, how can you bring that in to what you're currently doing? And whether it's continuing to travel and like collecting vintage pieces from around the world that I can offer in my designs, or focusing on maybe redoing Airbnbs to kind of revamp them to make a bit more money for the people that are renting out the space, and then moving maybe to hotels or boutique hotels kind of long term. I can still have travel and interior design and kind of mix the passions. You're not necessarily giving up one complete passion for another passion. You can blend them, and that is what's so interesting about this career. And when you are passionate and excited about something, people can see that and they buy into you much quicker. And I think that is a really great way to kind of distinguish.
Excellent points. Thank you, Amanda. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think also it depends, how you market yourself as well, doesn't it? Because I think if somebody went to your, heard about you, liked something that you designed, and they subsequently went to your website, you want a website that's going to reflect what you're good at. I particularly love color. And a lot of friends in the past have always said, oh, you're so sort of brave with painting walls. And I always think, well, if you don't like a color, I know it can be expensive and it's a bit of time, it's time consuming, but I think also if you don't like a color, then just paint over it. Wallpaper is just going mad at the moment, and it is incredible. But I think with paint and strong color, if that's what your thing is, then if you market that well enough, then people are going to think, oh, I know someone who's particularly good at really sort of emboldening a room with strong color and isn't afraid to use it. Then I think that could be a way of sort of promoting yourself and sort of getting that sort of distinguishing yourself that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Reflecting that in your sort of online presence, whether that's or your website, but just being very clear about what you're sharing with the world so that they understand immediately.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as they look at you, at your website, your social media or whatever, they get an immediate impression of what you can do and what you're not afraid to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's definitely in line with your aesthetic, Sarah, because if you go to your social media, your Instagram profile, it's immediately apparent that your aesthetic and your style is sort of a traditional British style. So
I've absolutely run out of rooms now. I'm starting to wonder what on earth I'm going to do.
To my house. I've just bought a house and it's an absolute fixer-upper and it's a nightmare. We've only been here a week and I want to move out, so feel free to come over.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I think it's a really great question, and I think to take what the other two ladies have said and put my business head back on, we are creatives and we work in a creative industry, but if you are wanting to be successful at distinguishing yourself and being recognized in a crowded market, then you have to have a business head on. You can't, like Sarah says, you can't say, oh, this is who I am, and then not have that reflected in your marketing materials. You have to have a clear brand, and that brand has to be consistent, and you have to be some people are like, I want to do design, I don't want to run a business, and it can be difficult because you have to have both. You have to work both. So having a clear message, who are you? Does my literature reflect that? Do my images reflect that? I mean, the number of websites I go on that are just shocking and they break my heart, because I'm like, well, I don't even want to apply. I don't know if I want to like even approach you now. Like, I'm not sure. But if I go onto an Instagram and we talk, everyone, there's this whole big hype, we know that Instagram isn't real necessarily. But if your Instagram is immediately like, oh my God, wow, like I just fall in love with it. And then I go onto your website and then I go onto your tagged images where, other people have tagged you in, and they still reflect that amazing personality and that amazing brand that I can see and that consistency. then yeah, I'm going to want to speak to you. I'm going to want to work with you. I'm going to want to shop from you. I'm going to want to apply for a job with you. So yeah, it's difficult. You have to be on trend, but that doesn't mean changing who you are and your style. That just means kind of being part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Being part of the conversation and making sure that you are speaking up in that marketplace, and you're consistent with the brand and with your communication.
Yeah.
Again, some of these websites that you go on, not only are they dreadful, but they look like they were created, when you were still logging on, Mum, can I go on the internet? And you have to like have the free line. And for anyone that doesn't know what that means, then God, I don't know if I want to go on your website.
Interior design is such a visual, like thing. So if you're not promoting yourself visually appealing, whether it's Instagram or any sort of social media or your website or yourself when you show up for meetings, people will not take you seriously. I don't think. You visually need to be like completely on point with everything.
Yeah. And if your skill set lays within interior design and not in building website, get someone else to do it. Get somebody whose niche it is to do that, to support you. I mean, there's so many people that we've all found each other online. There's so many people where you can ask for help, or there's free guides, or there's free websites. Don't think you have to do it all. No. So I suppose if you know where your niche lies, know where your
strengths are.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So really, really critical points. I think once you've kind of quizzed yourself and reflected internally as well what you're passionate about, and start looking into the areas that you're passionate about, and start working on designs or curated content, at least that's aligned with that. I think that you can start those conversations, as you said. So basically, I think that there are so many things that you can do right now as a student or an upcoming designer. Be part of the conversation. Try to meet with like-minded interior designers, or try to connect with interior designers that align with your aesthetic, and pick their brain, or just follow their content intently. Look at where they're getting their furniture from, look at what's inspiring them, find out if that inspires you, or if it doesn't, then maybe that's not your area. And in terms of becoming an expert, I think you really just need to start talking about the area that you're hoping to have a niche in. So whether that's talking about it through a medium like this, or blogging about it, or just simply writing sort of storytelling really on your Instagram account, you really need to have a voice behind your brand. And by having that voice, you will become an expert, because you will open the floor to conversation, and soon you'll be repeating yourself and focusing your design in that area, and through repetition you'll find that you'll become an expert. It's only when you've put in 1,000 hours in a certain area that you can become skilled at it. So
of course, and never be afraid to, like you say, learn off your peers, or ask questions, or keep learning. Like I'm only just entering the industry and being able to call myself a designer, even though I've been doing it for years. But my God, I love surrounding myself with experts. That's how you learn. That's how you become who you are. You become an expert. Absolutely. It's don't ever think you've got nothing left to gain by getting involved with other people. I think
I think because interior design can be quite a competitive industry. There's this idea that no one wants to help you or talk to you or share their insights, but I think that my experience has been that everyone's really open to talking and sharing, including really high level interior designers, celebrity interior designers as well. But I'm very conscious of time. We are coming to the end. So I'm just going to ask the very last quick fire question, which is, if you could win any award, what would that be?
I hate this question.
It's still got to be the Oscar for best interiors, film interiors, I think. Best interior.
Lovely, Sarah, lovely.
Can you imagine? Failing that, the list, the top 100 by House and Gardens, I think that would be, being invited to join that would be fantastic.
Amazing.
Definitely.
Amanda?
Such a tricky one. I think it would be really amazing to do some kind of like travel documentary about interiors around the world.
Yeah.
And then kind of like comparing and contrasting, and then, you know, winning something for that would be fantastic. Again, still meshing the two things that I love, but maybe I'm winning best documentary at the Oscars then.
Yes, there you go. There you go. They're going to sweep the board.
Oh God. I think maybe the award I would like to be recognised for would maybe be best restoration of like a national trust property or something. Oh, that has just come to me, but like, yeah, I adore walking around National Trust properties. And actually, I think he's English Heritage, a guy I follow on Instagram, and his job is to take these properties and kind of renovate them and restore them, but make them usable as a modern day like Airbnb kind of thing. I'll try find his name, but he's amazing. So yeah, I think maybe taking his job and becoming really famous at it. I want that award.
That's amazing. Well, I've always only, well, I mean, probably something interior design related, of course, would be amazing. But for me, I think the top award would probably be Forbes 40. I can't be
30 under 30.
I can't be 30 under 30 anymore.
Neither can I.
Under 40,
Definitely not.
Missed it.
But thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate and loved having you on this call. I think it was an amazing discussion, really valuable. Hopefully our viewers also loved it. If you have any comments for our panel today, please leave that in the comment box below. Thank you for joining us today. And of course, details for the next episode after this. Thank you again and have a lovely day further.
Thanks, Del. Thanks, girls.
Thank you so much, ladies.